Well, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us for this evening's Broadband 101 Town Hall. I'm Jonathan Jank with the Seward County Chamber and Development Partnership. Thanks for many of you coming from obviously around our county, but also for those that came from the outside in. And we're grateful for the conversation that we're going to have tonight. And we're grateful for all the partners that are at the table for tonight's conversation. You're going to get to hear from our friends at the Nebraska Broadband Office. We appreciate their team coming tonight and get to hear from Patrick and maybe some of his teammates. And then you also get to hear from my teammate Jacob here in just a minute, who serves as our Vice President and Director of Community Affairs. So with that though, as a part of the welcome, did everybody get a chance to sign in? It's not a mandatory thing, but we're trying to build advocates as a part of our efforts around broadband. And it's really important that we understand who's interested in this topic. So if you haven't signed in, we'd ask that you would consider doing that before we get started. With that, pretty free-flowing. We are recording, so just kind of a general heads-up awareness. Because we heard a number of people couldn't come tonight, so we want to make sure that we record it. We'll put it on the Chamber YouTube channel, so we have that moving forward. So with that said, I'll turn it over to my teammate Jacob, and he'll get us started.
Thanks, Jonathan. Jacob Jennings with the Seward County Chamber and Development Partnership. I think I know most of you in this room. I also serve on the Broadband Taskforce. I'll quickly go over the agenda for this evening. I'll introduce the task force, our history, what we've done, our goals. We'll jump over to Tim to talk about some zoning questions. Move over to the Nebraska Broadband Office. They'll cover these next couple topics about their history, what they do, what is broadband, what are the different broadband technologies out there, go into internet speeds, and specifically how those internet speeds relate to upcoming funding opportunities like BEAD, and then the Broadband Map Challenge process as part of that BEAD program. Then we'll end with some Q&A. We do have to be out of here by 8 o'clock tonight. I don't anticipate having any issues with that, but we'll probably try to stick it to about an hour. But as discussion and questions continue, we can just keep an eye on the clock. So, about the task force. We started back in 2021, late 2021. This was a partnership with the Seward County Commissioners, some really forward-thinking commissioners. I'll point out Misty Amick, Commissioner Amick. She serves the south central part of Seward County around the Milford area, as well as Commissioner Zabraki in the back, who serves the Seward area. Again, very forward-thinking. They recognized how poor internet access was in Seward County, especially the rural parts of Seward County. Once you get outside of Seward, Milford, Utica, even within our villages, our smaller villages, you're going to have a hard time connecting to the internet. They also recognized there was a lot of funding coming down the pike between state and the feds. Jonathan likes to say that internet is sort of a fifth utility. You've got your natural gas, your electric, water, wastewater, and internet. It's just a very integrated part of our lives. We use it every day. Telehealth, online school, work from home. You really can't live without it these days. So we formed in late 2021, early 2022. Our goal is countywide representation. So we don't want to just be Seward people advocating for Seward things. It's commissioners who are serving different parts of the county. Our organization, the Chamber, serves the entire county. We want to have work from home people from different parts of the county. And we've done a pretty good job of that. I'll say if you are really interested in this topic and you want to be involved, feel free to reach out to myself, to Jonathan, somebody on the task force, and we can try to get you plugged in. I'll just mention one of the things we worked on, something called the Nebraska Broadband Bridge Program, or the Capital Projects Fund. That was introduced in late 2022. It was an opportunity, $40 million opportunity for internet service providers in Congressional District 1 to expand their coverage and serve more constituents. I think there's 12 counties in Congressional District 1, Seward County being one of them. We worked with Southeast Nebraska Development District, some nearby counties, to put together an RFI, a request for information, and a request for proposal. And really that was just asking the question to internet service providers, do you want to work with us? Do you want to partner with us? We'll walk hand in hand with you. We'll support you with support letters. We'll waive our fees. We'll make it as easy as possible as we can make it in our control for you to grow your business and for our citizens to benefit. So we had a few different providers respond to that RFI, but only one, and I'll thank our Allo friends. They responded to our RFP as well. They submitted a really strong application. We supported that, and they received about $9.2 million in about mid-2023, early 2023. No other county in CD1 got that much money, so it was a big accomplishment for us. And we're very grateful to Allo for doing that. By the end of this year, by the end of 2024, they'll have built out, I think, and served 518 new homes in Seward County, in the northeast, east central part of Seward County. And those were residents who basically had no internet access prior. Very, very poor internet connection. Now there's going to be fiber going up and down those roads right to their homes. So it's a huge, huge improvement. And really that is our goal. This is Jonathan's tongue-in-cheek saying, fiber to the cow. That's fiber to every business, every home, every farm in Seward County. That's our goal. It's going to take some time. Awareness, that's what we're doing now with events like this. And then some advocacy. We'll talk about in a minute one way that you can get involved and advocate for yourself, your business, your village, through this map challenge process we'll touch on. I'll also touch on, we're trying to look at this holistically. So once we do get internet to every home, every business, we realize that it's all for nothing if you can't, if you don't have a device that can connect to the internet, and then if you don't know how to use the device. So we're trying to think big picture. We want places in Seward where you can get your devices fixed. We want the library, teachers to be able to teach, especially our elderly population, how to use these devices. So again, trying to look at this big picture. We're going to go on to zoning. Tim, if you want to touch on that.
Real quick, Tim DeWart, City of Seward Building and Zoning. I was asked to just briefly speak about the ETJ, or the extraterritorial jurisdiction of...
So can you go to the front?
No?
Camera.
Oh, you're fine. Again, just to speak briefly about the ETJ, or the extraterritorial jurisdiction of the municipalities within Seward County. Seward has a 2-mile jurisdiction that surrounds us. Many of the smaller communities only have a 1-mile jurisdiction for their ETJ. The intent of the ETJ, it provides the municipality with some of a voice or control of what happens outside of its corporate limits. We're looking for conformity with city ordinances, zoning, and subdivision regulations. Once a city expands, they could run into a problem where we have to meet the same standards outside the city limits as we do within the city limits for our residents. The growth of the ETJ in the city of Seward is generally driven by a comprehensive plan, which is basically a roadmap for how the city grows. As the municipalities expand, we have a responsibility to extend utilities, infrastructure into those expanded areas. We have to contend with obstacles that are in our way to do so. We have to figure out how to get around those obstacles. Without that jurisdiction to help shape the ETJ, we grapple with how to meet the standards of the city of Seward. One of those obstacles is a communication tower. 200-foot landing zone. If you've got a 200-foot tower, you got 100% landing zone. That creates an issue for us trying to develop neighborhoods, roads, infrastructure, how to get around all that. We do have a zoning code that regulates communication towers for the city of Seward. I understand several of the smaller municipalities do not. They're certainly welcome to go research our code and see if there's something there that can help their municipality out. With that, that's just a very brief overview.
Any questions for Tim? I want to thank Tim and also his teammate Mike Onaby, who is the city engineer. Mike's been a part of our task force from the beginning and just a great countywide partner. And so we appreciate their expertise that they bring to the table. I know that they just attended a meeting in Beaver Crossing last week. And so really just a collaborative spirit, and we're grateful for that. That's our goal. We're stronger together in the county, and so appreciate that partnership with the city of Seward as we look to expand broadband connectivity, fiber optic connectivity in the county. With that, we'll turn it over to Patrick from the broadband office, and he'll take us through a number of the rest of the topics that we have. Again, if you have questions, feel free to just stop us and let us have the conversation. So Patrick, welcome.
Thanks, Jonathan. Thank you, Jacob. I feel like I'm carrying most of the water here, though. Well, thank you all. Your interest in this area is admirable, and we're grateful for it. As I say to a lot of folks, we're the Nebraska Broadband Office, but this project's going to take the village to complete it. And I may not be able to get into all the weeds around that, but I'll do my best and answer any questions at the end of it. So the Nebraska Broadband Office, it was signed as an executive order, I believe, at the beginning of 2023. I spoke with the governor in June of 2023 and then moved my entire house from Stillwater, Minnesota to Elkhorn, Nebraska, July 17th of 2023, and we've been building the office since. Statutorily, we are allowed or permitted to staff up to 10 folks. We're still debating on that 10th position, whether or not we need that or we can solve for that portion of it differently. We're currently up to 7 staff members, so we have 2 remaining positions. Those positions reside in our grant administration department, so if you know of anybody that loves numbers, loves monitoring large projects, those kind of things, we're absolutely open to having that discussion with them, and those positions are posted. I think next slide. So the rest of our office, so what our office exists for currently, although there's some pending legislation out there to bring some other funding, the bridge funding that Jacob had mentioned, into the office. Currently, we're here to support the administration of $405 million that's been allocated to Nebraska through the BEAD program. BEAD program is conceptually an idea that came out of the Infrastructure and Jobs Act, allocating $42.5 billion to broadband across the country through different iterations of determining the state's needs. We were awarded $405 million. Our goal, our mandate, if you will, in order for us to accept that funding, we commit to ensuring that by the year 2029, every unserved location in the state of Nebraska, and I'll get into some of those definitions in a later slide, but that every unserved location in Nebraska by 2029 is served. In other words, they have access to speeds of at least 100 megabits down and 20 megabits up. We can go to the next slide. Broadband technology. Okay, this wasn't my slide, so I'm going to wing this one. Fiber optic, this is the glass, light travel class glass, arguably the most forward-thinking, most future-supported type of infrastructure to deploy broadband on. DSL, this having spent 25 years in telecom, this is primarily the telco's initial technology. They had initially copper lines from their central office, their head end, if you will, all the way out to the customer's home. Through the advent of DSL, they started transitioning networks in an incremental way. So now they bring fiber out to a box and then utilize that existing copper from the box to the home. DSL, typically the downside of DSL is that the more users that get on it and the distances that the signal has to travel on copper slow it down. So that's primarily why you see the slow speeds. Fixed wireless, there's 2 types of fixed wireless, really licensed and unlicensed spectrum fixed wireless. It's presenting probably the first solvable solution to rural broadband that we had, and it's only getting better. I've met with a number of our homegrown fixed wireless providers. They've shared the technologies that they have now and what's forthcoming, and it's a solid, it gets a bad rap primarily because of fiber providers and DSL providers, but the technology is really coming along, and I think if people really make an effort to understand it, you're going to have a lot more confidence in it. Cable internet, again, both the DSL providers and the cable internet providers 10 years ago all adopted a greenfield approach to things. So any new subdivisions, any new areas they were building into that they didn't have an existing plant in, went fiber to the home. So what's remaining in terms of the cable internet stuff is similar to DSL in that there's fiber out to a box, and then there are old coaxial cable to the customer's home. The difference in why you'll see a pretty significant spread in terms of cable internet and DSL internet is the electronics that support that coaxial fiber or coaxial copper to the home are a lot better on the cable side. They were just set up on the electronic side to be a lot more flexible, a lot more evolutionary in terms of how they kind of evolved with that. And then satellite internet, SpaceX is one that comes to mind. There's a couple other ones out there. Again, a technology that gets a lot of bum rap, primarily from the lobbyists on the other side. I speak to SpaceX probably once a month, voice to voice, and get an email from them once a week. SpaceX, as the example, is creating an entire program around BEAD. In that program, I've been extremely impressed with, and they all too are continuing to evolve their technologies to where it's going to be a lot greater speeds. Next slide. This is one of my slides. So back to the speeds and the served, unserved, and served location. These are federal definitions that have been in existence for 10 or 15 years. There's a lot of advocates that want to see these definitions changed to reflect the advanced times we're in, but these are what we're living with right now. So served is any location, and I'll just say it now, it's become more common, it's an NTIA term, but BSLs, broadband serviceable locations. So any broadband serviceable location that currently has access through an existing provider or providers of speeds greater than 100 megabits down and greater than 20 megabits up is considered served. So for the purposes of the program my office is administrating, those are ineligible for funding. They're above the 120 mark, they're considered served. Underserved, defined as less than 25 or greater than 25 and 3, but less than 120. Those are BEAD eligible, but only after you've addressed the mandate, and that is your unserved locations, which is any broadband serviceable location that does not have access to speeds greater than 25 and 3. We can go to the next slide, and I'll probably expand on this one. So this is relatively new. Not everybody has these numbers, but I have said them publicly a lot. And this is remarkable, quite frankly. I sent these numbers back to the team 5 or 6 times, and I still am probably at 99% confident they're right. So if you think of, I had started in July of 2017. When we walked in, we started the office essentially. We had 717,000 roughly served locations in the state of Nebraska. We had almost 30,000 underserved locations, so those that got something above 25 and 3 but less than 120. And we had 50,000 unserved locations, I'm sorry. So the way BEAD has prescribed the funding prioritization is that you first have to meet the mandate of serving all your unserved locations. So again, 50,000 in the state of Nebraska last fall. We had an funding allocation of $405 million, as you saw at the beginning. On the back of a napkin, to get fiber to all 50,000 of those locations was going to cost Nebraska about $820 million. So we had half of what we thought we needed for funding. As you looked at the capital planning funding, as you looked at the ongoing bridge funding appropriated by the legislature, and some other funding sources federally that were coming into the state, we just barely got to that 50,000. So we were a little uncomfortable, but somewhat confident we could meet our mandate in accepting the $405 million. So now fast forward to all of our maps start out with what the FCC calls their fabric. And the FCC has a third party contracted to them to update maps all over the country. And in November of this last year, they released what they referred to as version 3 of their fabric. So we were 3 generations into the fabric. And as we plug that into our map, that's our foundation for the map as well, and then we build on that through work with the PSC and work with the legislature and work with, quite frankly, all of you, to get our numbers as accurate as they possibly can be. We jumped from 717,000 to 773,000 served locations in Nebraska. We dropped from 29,000, roughly 30,000 underserved locations in Nebraska to just about 9,000. And our unserved locations dropped from 50,000 to 15,000. So we now believe not only can we get with the $405 million in funding, can we address all our unserved populations, we can address our underserved populations, and we've got, at least back of that, can have some funding left over to get into our community anchor institutions, which is the next tier you can dive into if you have monies left over. But pretty remarkable. And then I guess the behind the curtain in this is that significant drop, just using the 50,000 to 15,000. A lot of that is enforceable commitments, meaning there are, like USDA, for example, has a reconnect. Once a bid is awarded in reconnect, it becomes an enforceable commitment, meaning USDA can go back to that provider who committed to making that investment and penalize them if they don't. The big one for us here in Nebraska was a program administered through the FCC called ACAM, and this round that had this kind of impact to Nebraska was called Enhanced ACAM. And we had of 18 providers that were, ACAM is a form of regulation that really mid-sized telecoms opted into for a lot of different reasons, legally and otherwise for themselves. But we had 18 ACAM eligible providers here in Nebraska, and 13 of them accepted the ACAM award the enhanced ACAM award that they were presented with. So a big part of that are enforceable commitments, meaning in layman's terms, they have to get it done by 2028. So there's a lot of there's a lot of people out there going to say, wait a minute, I don't have service, but your map's showing me I do. Well, that's because they have an enforceable commitment behind that. It's just not there yet. And that's sometimes hard to get across to folks when, I want it now and I'm showing on the map as I have it, I don't. But it's something, it takes time to build these networks. I think next slide. So the challenge process, and this is really where all of you can engage with the process around administrating BEAD for us. We initially started out with a 5-year plan we had to submit and have approved by NTIA, which we did in October. That was more of a kind of conceptual, here's how we're going to administrate the program on a very broad, and the ability for us to be flexible in how we did that was within that. The second, we had to admit our initial plan. That was less flexible. We had to, this is our plan, and once approved, that's our plan, and they're going to hold us to it. We had in order to move on to the challenge process, we had to have Volume 1 submitted and committed, or submitted and approved, which we did in October as well. And then our Volume 2 at least submitted, which we did in December, having met all the timeline requirements of the program. In February, we got our Volume 1 back through a lot of curing cycles with NTIA, but got it back as approved. And we're currently going through, we just submitted today, the Volume 2 Round 1 cures. And cures are just the feedback NTIA gives us around our drafting to say, you need to do a little bit more about this, we need to understand more about this. So we have now qualified the state for the challenge window. We expect to start that this Friday through a tremendous lot of hard work through Trevi and Rachel, as you'll get to meet out of our external affairs team. We intend to start our challenge process on Friday, or open the window up for that. The process is laid out into 3 different kind of funnels, if you will. The first one being the 30-day period in which challenges can be submitted into the portal, a 30-day period in which providers, primarily anybody, can rebut that challenge and say either I uphold it or it's incorrect. And then the last 30-day period where our office gets to adjudicate those challenges and rebuttals. Ultimately, we then turn over those challenges we uphold to the NTIA, and they get another 30 to 60 days to agree or disagree with our adjudication, quite frankly. So we'll start the challenge process on Friday. We'll have 30 days in which challenges can be accepted or submitted into the portal. The trick is, in order for engagement from the public, NTIA, in its infinite wisdom, I get why they did it, but it's really kind of hamstrung us in terms of really getting the engagement we like here in Nebraska from the public. But they've allowed, identified 3 eligible entities to be able to log into the portal and actually submit a challenge. Those entities are local and tribal communities, nonprofits, and the ISPs. So if I'm Patrick, I live north of town here, I go to the map and I see that the map says I'm served, and our map reflects different legends in terms of enforceable commitments and otherwise, and I don't show an enforceable commitment. I'm served and that it's not served by an enforceable commitment. I have to find one of those 3 entities to go to and say, can you submit a challenge for me? Which is really, we get it, very, very difficult, but also I understand, the NTIA had their reasoning for how they did it. But Rachel and Trevi have done a tremendous job of engaging economic development organizations, engaging counties and cities to participate, to get their license so that they can access the portal and be a resource for the public to come to and say, the map's wrong, please submit this challenge for me and get it fixed. I think as of last Friday, we had 70 licensees, if you will, that can access the portal, which I suspect probably twice as big as any other state in the country. So we've got a lot of people, a lot of resources out there that people can access it. And Trevi and Rachel have done a lot of training sessions with those folks, so it's still probably going to be somewhat of a minimal disaster, but we'll get through it. Howard, is it? I think I touched on that. Okay, to kind of give you the timeline, 5-year plan, initial plan, challenge window. The next step we'll move into, hopefully early summer, midsummer, is a letter of interest portion of it. We're doing it a little bit uniquely. We've got a tremendous team on the grant administration side. Diane Lowe, who heads that up, is 20 years at DHHS doing federal grant administration, so we're so fortunate to have her. If you ever question the work ethic and the intelligence of a public servant, come to my office. I'll introduce you to Trevi and Rachel and Diane, and we're just really lucky to have the team we have. But the letter of interest, why we're doing that initially is we're going to use that as an eligibility gate, meaning that we could wait till the applications and have a lot of the technical, managerial, and financial capabilities of the applicant vetted out within that. We think we can, our position is that we want the application to be all about the project. So we're going to do the managerial, technical, and financial feasibility vetting in a letter of interest. So if a provider, anybody that wants to, in order to become an eligible applicant, they'll have to submit a letter of interest. The team will evaluate that letter of interest, assign a risk value to it so that we carry that risk value into then the applications and potentially the awards. But you've got to get through that letter of interest gate to ultimately be eligible for applications. Applications we hope to begin accepting in the fall time frame, and our goal as a team is to be allocating or appropriating, in other words, awarding applicants by the end of the year. We won't have all the $405 million out, but we hope to at least have a portion of that so we can check our box. And we'll end with the NTIA, again, probably in their infinite wisdom, in order to motivate all the states to be competitive with each other, put together a dashboard based on the progress the states were making through all those gates I just mentioned. When we opened the office in July, we were at number 21 in the country, I believe. Within a couple of months, we were at number 14, and as of the last dashboard update, we were at number 2, tied with several handful of other states in the country. So the governor gives me a hard time about this. When are we going to be number 1? When I keep telling him I want to be the mouse that gets the cheese, not the mouse that gets the trap. So there's a couple of states, Virginia and I believe Louisiana, are out ahead of us. But there are a lot of states also intentionally delaying so that we all can be the trailblazers and make the mistakes and they learn from us. And I'm okay with a big part of that because I don't think we make very many mistakes, knock on wood. But nonetheless, there is some advantage in kind of watching somebody else get ahead of us. And I think from a time perspective, next thing. So if you haven't visited our website, Rachel and Trevi have done a tremendous job of, the office is built on 3 tenets really: transparency, accessibility, and being easy to work with. And I think a foundation underneath all 3 of those tenets are communication. And Trevi and Rachel are really all about how we and our partners in this and part of that was through our website. There's going to be 9 of us, maybe 10 of us. We can't, staff phone calls all day, so we're trying to be communicating through technologies that have a broader impact. So if you haven't visited nebraskabroadband.gov, I encourage you to do so. It looks incredible. It's as with everything, it's hard to tell you about how the sausage got made, but the sausage looks great now. So go out and visit it. You can also find our map there. So that will be, from a challenge perspective, that would be where you'd want to go to see if your location, your brother's location, whatever that might be, is accurately reflected on the map. I talk about the map from a seriousness perspective in a simple way. That once we submit and the NTIA approves our map, the addresses on the map and the status they have are the inventory we get to fund. So if we find 100 households that aren't served, but on the map showed served and they weren't challenged, we don't get to go back with this money at least and serve those 100. So our map's got to be right. And I think our map's 99.5% there right now. I think we're going to have some adjustments, but I think we're really accurate in all the efforts we made to be accurate with our map. But it's that serious, that once it's locked down, it's locked down. We don't get to go back with this money at least. What else? Rachel or Trevi, did I miss anything?
I think you covered it well.
Okay. What do I do now?
Do you? Yeah, sounds great. Thank you. Well, Patrick, Trevi, Rachel are going to be here for a bit longer, even beyond, when we finish the presentation. So feel free to pick their brain after we finish up here, and appreciate their partnership through this town hall. So let's see, just a couple of things to finish up. Really, this is my call to action for all of you, especially for our partners, our community members, our community leaders in Seward County. We need your help. To Patrick's point, we have to, this is our chance for access to the $405 million. If there are places in our county that are designated as served, but they're not, we have to fix that through the challenge process. That is our one chance for accessibility to the $405 million to do that. And thanks to Jacob's good work, we're officially a local registered advocate, again, as Patrick alluded to. So we're one of those 70 that can help walk residents through, or businesses or farms, whatever it may be, to ensure that if their area is unserved or underserved, that we can help them prove that accordingly. And there's a multi-step process to do that. I think we need 3 speed tests that prove that. Basically a bill that shows what they're paying for to prove that as well. There have been some excellent trainings from the broadband office to help us understand how to advocate for you. And we're really committed to that. The Chamber Board has committed to that through our strategic plan. This is a huge goal for us as a county. That fiber to the cow, it's a real thing. That's my tongue in cheek, but we're serious about it. We do want a connectivity to every home, business, farm across Seward County, and we want to lead the state in that effort. So there is a mapping process, and again, you could see green dots. That means green is go, that means you're served. And so we'd encourage people through the process to see, again, that threshold being 120. If you are not getting that, that would mean that you're underserved, and we need to then go through the formal challenge process. Or if you're under 25 and 3, then you're unserved. So either one of those, that'd be either yellow or red, means that we have a chance to potentially get funding. And what we understand, and please correct me if I'm wrong, if we can find one household in each census block that would be unserved or underserved, that would then designate that entire census block as being that such. We need 6 within that. So if you know one, we're going to then have to talk to neighbors to ensure that we'd be able to basically flip that from green to yellow or red accordingly.
And maybe a little more clarity around
Yes,
that.
please.
So if you find 6 or more, you can submit it as an area challenge. And as an area challenge, it's found that we can uphold those 6 that were shown as served but are unserved. That requires then the rebutter, is that a word?
Yeah.
The rebutter to, doesn't sound like a word. The person that's going to challenge back, the ISP, the provider, for example, they have to then go out and do 80% of 75%?
They have to respond to the entire census.
To the entire census block, yeah. So if there's 6 in there, but there's 26 dwellings in there, if those 6 are deemed to be upheld, they have to go out and verify for us the other 20 in the central block.
That's great, and that's helpful. So in a sense, though, this is our chance to advocate for ourselves. And if we're not advocating for ourselves, no one's going to magically do it for us. So it's really key that we step up and make this effort. Obviously, this is a kickoff to that for us. The challenge process starts on Friday, but only goes for 30 days. Our office is putting together a postcard that's actually going to go out to basically every zip code in throughout the rural part of our county specifically, because our goal then is to engage the public. We have a great partnership with our local newspaper. Appreciate Emily and her team helping cover this important topic for our county. We have to get the word out there. We would ask through your various roles. I see a lot of community, countywide leaders, to please pass this out to your constituents. It's not a super complicated process. You have our office to be a direct advocate for you legally through the process that the broadband office was given, that we have to work through. And so this is really the call to action, but we're asking that we multiply ourselves tenfold beyond who is here tonight. Because we can't do this alone, and we can only get that fiber to the cow dream, that vision of what we want to become as a county through funding mechanisms like this, because I can tell you the math doesn't work otherwise. And so there has to be some level of subsidization, and we can see the tremendous success that we had through that bridge program, the Capital Projects Fund in partnership with Dallo, to start to meet some of our underserved areas of the county, but we need more than that. And so we need your partnership and help to accomplish it. So right now we're going to do questions and then also introduce you to some of our Broadband Task Force members. If you're a Broadband Task Force member, if you wouldn't mind just raising your hand and being acknowledged and saying, we want to say thank you to you for being a part of this. We never meet to meet, but we've been leading towards this for 2 years. We knew this was coming, and we prepared ourselves in Seward County to be ready for this moment. And so we need all of you to basically help us to make our county take that next step. And again, if you want to engage with this process, feel free to reach out to Jacob or myself or someone else on the task force to be a part of this moving forward. Yes?
Misty Amick from Seward County Commissioners. I want to recognize and thank the rest of my board as well.
Yes.
So they're all here tonight too. Could you guys raise your hands as
Yes,
well?
please.
If you wouldn't mind. So Reagan, Ken, and John, who have all allocated some funding towards this process.
Absolutely.
To assist us in this process. So thank you to all of you for believing in this and supporting us, because without them, we wouldn't have been this far. So
Absolutely.
to recognize all of them as well. So thank you.
Great point. Yeah, and again, thanks to the commissioners for actually launching the task force. I think that was visionary. And we found out, unfortunately, from some of our neighbors, they haven't thought about this stuff. So we're trying to be proactive, and we hope we're a leader in the state for others to sort of take this ball and run with it, because we need this for our state to be successful. And so we're hoping we can lead that way. We'll open it up for questions here. Would encourage people to ask. Go ahead.
So if I'm unserved or underserved, how do I know who's in my census block? Which neighbors do I talk to?
Yeah, I was going to say, Patrick, you want to take that?
Yeah, so you want to first go in and look your address up, and every layer of the map has a searchable field. So you'll go in and put your address in, and you can submit a challenge specifically just for your address. You don't it doesn't have to be 6. There's independent challenges, which is just one address, one location, and there's what we call area challenges, which is up to, well, it could be larger than that, but at least 6 locations, which would then trigger the requirement for the person rebutting to go out and then verify the rest of the locations in that census block. But if your address is incorrect on it, you can submit just your address.
I have neighbors I can talk to. I just don't know which ones I should talk to, I guess, is the...
It's a layer on the map.
Yeah, when you go...
You'll be able to see it on the map?
Yes,
Okay.
it's like county lines, kind of like a county line map. It's a layer on the map, you can see the lines.
Okay.
Yeah, they kind of look like hexagons, if I'm remembering that right.
It's not the hexagons, there's a new layer that's been added to
Oh.
the map.
Excellent.
Unfortunately, they're not that regular.
Gotcha.
You know, they're very
Okay.
irregular shapes.
But I think once you find your address, you'll be able to identify your neighbors pretty quickly.
Mhm.
And you can click on each of the cells and it will give you a lot of information about that address. Who serves it now, at what speeds they advertise it to serve, a number of stuff, what technologies serve it. So I don't think you'll have too much problems finding your neighbors.
And that's at broadband.nebraska.gov?
.broadband,
Broadband.nebraska.
broadband.nebraska. I got a bookmark.
Yep, right there.
Oh, yeah, Nebraska. There you go.
Yeah, Matt.
Matt with Senator Hughes' office. Obviously, SCCDP is a local registered advocate in Seward County that I go to. How do constituents, Senator Hughes representing 3 and a third counties, how do we know or point constituents to who is their local registered advocate?
We can share that with you now.
Yeah.
Is that online? They can look it up?
There's a page on our,
Okay.
there's a page on our website, and if you go to the challenge, at the main challenge page,
Okay.
there's a link there that says find an advocate, and they're all sorted by
Perfect.
counties right now.
Senator Hughes it's a big issue, and obviously in the district, and she wants to get the word out, so
Right.
we'll do
So, and
that.
there we've got a couple that have stepped up that are offering, like NACO's offered, and
Okay.
the Center for Rural Affairs will submit challenges for anybody in the state.
Awesome.
And there's a lot of, obviously a lot of ISPs on their map,
Yeah.
but they're all aware of this effort, so I wouldn't hesitate to send someone to, the local ISP if they've got somebody they know.
Okay. Thank you.
Really competitive also.
Great.
Right.
And again, we're oh, go ahead, Trevor.
So when someone's running their speed test, and please correct me if I'm wrong, it's my understanding that for an ISP to claim I am served, by this definition, I have to have greater than or equal to or greater than 100 megabits per second down and 20 up.
That's correct, Trevor.
My old provider used to dance around that awfully
No.
carefully with, well, you're getting 300 down.
Yeah.
Yes, and I'm getting 8 up.
Yeah, they're addressed equally. And maybe to put a finer point on the comment around speed test, Nebraska was one of a handful of states that took the optional ability to allow speed test challenges. So there's only one type of challenge, and it would most likely be, I'm paying for 100 down and 20 up, but I've done 3 speed tests and I'm only getting 50 down and 10 up. And so I want to challenge my address based on the speeds I'm receiving. That's where we'll require the speed test. If you're going in, if a resident is going in to challenge just the availability, all we ask for is the advertised speeds. So they can go out to the website, like I was mentioning, you can click on the actual address and it will bring up the speeds that the provider in the area is advertising for you. So that's what we're asking for in that, so you don't have to go out and find speed tests, do them 3 times over 3 days, 3 different times a day. It gets a little complicated, we try to simplify it, but the majority of them are going to be availability, I think, which, yeah, you don't have to have a speed test, just advertise speed tests.
Jonathan, can I ask a follow-on question about
Yeah, of course.
With these speed tests, do you have to be hardlined right into the modem? Like if someone is using Wi-Fi around the house, that's not a true test because that's not what's coming in from outside.
We don't have that restriction in ours, it just needs to be 3. Now, frankly, one of my concerns, and I'm continuing to still meet with fixed wireless providers because that's where we get a lot of the speed challenges, how you test that. But what I've shared with all the potential people that will respond to these challenges is you've got to prove to the office through the adjudication that the evidence you presented is infallible. So they know they're going to be pressed on the evidence they present otherwise or to contradict a challenge. So if somebody, I obviously know, Trevor, to take a speed test directly wired into the modem, you're going to get better results, more consistent results. But also the evidence to present to refute that may not need to be as strong, right? So if you're coaching someone on it, it's best to probably tether to a modem, but we don't have that requirement.
Okay.
And I don't think they'll be, talking to the fixed wireless folks, I don't think they'll be above sending out a technician. So.
Great, thank you.
I don't know if I should sit down.
No, it's okay. Any other questions? Yeah. Oh,
I was just gonna give a shout out to Jacob, as you said, you are registered as an advocate in this process. Jacob actually was the very first registered advocate.
we're not competitive at all.
I hadn't even sent out the email yet, I'm just getting stuff uploaded to the website, and he's in my inbox, hey, how do I do this?
Isn't competition one of your top 5? You came out in flying colors.
So,
Excellent. Yeah, that's great. Yes, thank you. That's great. Jacob, did you have something too?
I was just going to ask about I know you've touched on this before, but could you talk about your marketing efforts, how you're going to kind of get the word out? We have maybe a postcard we're going to send out, but what are some things you're doing to get the word out?
I'm a fiscal conservative, so it's been really hard to get me across, but Rachel and Trevi have made a significant statewide radio purchase. We've got a one-pager. Well, maybe I'll let Rachel and Trevi, that's...
Yeah, so we will be doing, we actually pulled the trigger on that today. So there will be a radio spot across the entire state, 30-second spot for the entire 30-day challenge. We will be sending out a marketing toolkit in the next day or two to all of the advocates. It'll have instructions on how to do things. It'll have a flyer you can post. It'll have some social media kits in it that you can post to social media. We'll be doing a press release. We'll be sending also that press release and all those things out to our distribution list, which is about 1,800 I think right now. So 1,800 stakeholders. So we put you on one up, and we encourage all of them to share that with their networks as well.
Yeah. And Rachel and Trevi begrudgingly got me to agree to social media, so friend us on Facebook and soon to be on YouTube.
Yes, well, we have YouTube, just nothing on it.
If you can actually send us the radio spot as well, we have a radio partnership. We'd love to put that out to
Awesome.
those spots.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Thank you.
And I've got something to close on already.
Yeah.
So what I typically close with, it's something that I can't remember if it was Jacob or Jonathan touched on, but trust us to be in the weeds, getting the administration of the program underway. What I forward think about, and will really enjoy the day we get to focus more on this, is the old adage, at least in the industry, is the farm kids have to go to town to sit in the McDonald's parking lot to do their homework. Imagine a world by 2029 where that doesn't exist anymore, where there's fiber to almost every farmhouse in Nebraska. The kids can do their homework, the farmer can do their accounting, can run their business. I think we should prepare now for the investment we're making so that when we get to 2029 and everybody has it, we've completely leveraged this investment. There's all kinds of statistics that come out around economic development, around just the wonderful things that access to the internet provide, jobs, everything. And if we're not thinking about it now, and we formally really aren't, I think we'll get to 2029 and wish we had. So I always end with that, to be, really be thinking now how the community's going to adopt that. I mean, it is one thing, adoption and access and device and those kinds of things, but you could think of this on a much broader concept.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Great. Sounds good. Well, anything else? Any comments, questions? We will put this recording on our YouTube channel. We ask that you would push this out across your networks because I think not just for the challenge process, but just for, I'll say, Broadband 101 sort of general understanding. We need community leaders, community members to really better their understanding of the topic of broadband. It's really important for our future because we want to future-proof our county, and we can do that through broadband technology. So with that, thanks for the investment of time tonight. We appreciate our partners at the library for hosting us. And with that, have a good night.
Thank you.